Have you ever looked back on your life and wondered why, after all the years of giving, listening, and caring, you sometimes find yourself sitting quietly, perhaps even feeling alone, while the world just keeps rushing by? Maybe you've noticed that the more generous your spirit, the less likely people seem to check in on you, or even say thank you. If any of this sounds familiar, let me assure you, you are not alone. And tonight, I'd like to talk with you about something many of us have felt, but few have truly explored. Why do the kindest people so often end up feeling alone? I think most of us, especially those of us who've crossed a few decades, have lived through moments where our kindness felt invisible. Maybe you were the one who always had a plate ready for unexpected guests, or the friend who answered the phone at 2 a.m. when someone needed to talk. Perhaps you put others first, your children, your partner, even your neighbors, and made sure everyone was taken care of, even when it meant putting your own needs last. We're raised to believe that kindness is one of life's greatest virtues, and it is. But there's a side of kindness that's rarely discussed, the loneliness that can come with it. Why is this important, especially for those of us in our 60s and beyond? Because with each passing year, our world changes. Family members move away, old friends drift off, and we find ourselves with more time for reflection. Sometimes the quiet around us can feel like a reward, peace at last. Other times, though, it can feel like a silent emptiness, and you might ask yourself, was all my caring worth it? Did anyone notice? These are real feelings, and they deserve real conversation. So tonight, let's take an honest, gentle look at why nice people so often end up alone, and, most importantly, how you can protect your spirit and find joy in your kindness. I want to start with something I think many of you will recognize. Nice people rarely seek the spotlight. You don't hand out kindness in hopes of getting something back. You do it because it's who you are. Maybe you grew up in a time when neighbors looked out for one another, when kindness was expected, not exceptional. Or maybe you learned, through hardship, that a gentle word can soften even the hardest heart. But somewhere along the way, your kindness became such a natural part of who you are that people began to take it for granted. And when kindness is expected, it's often overlooked. People grow used to it, and they may even forget to say thank you, assuming that you'll always be there, steady as ever, like the sunrise. That's the first truth I want to share tonight. When your kindness becomes a given, people can forget it takes effort. You might notice family members who only call when they need something, or friends who expect you to listen but never ask how you are. They aren't necessarily unkind, they've just become comfortable, even dependent on your steady support. The world doesn't always mean to overlook those who are nice. It's just that your gentleness is so reliable, people can forget it's a choice you make day after day. This can create a quiet, invisible weight. It's not just about giving time or help, it's about giving a little piece of yourself every time. Each moment you listen, each time you offer encouragement, you are pouring from your own cup. Over years, if that cup isn't refilled, if there's no acknowledgement, no care flowing back to you, your spirit can start to feel empty. The beautiful part is, most nice people don't regret giving. But the challenge is, the world is not always built to refill that wellspring. Now, I know many of you might say, well, I'm not looking for a pat on the back. I'm just doing what feels right. And that's true. But even the strongest hearts need a little warmth in return. It can be as simple as a heartfelt thank you, a phone call just to check in, or a neighbor dropping by to share some tea. The smallest gestures can mean the world to someone who spends so much of their life giving. Yet for nice people, those gestures can be rare, and the silence that follows can feel heavy. So why do nice people often find themselves alone? Another reason is because you've learned to avoid conflict. Maybe you discovered early on that peace was more important than being right, or that an argument could do more harm than good. Kindness, in your world, means being the bigger person, letting go of grudges, forgiving easily, and smoothing over disagreements before they have a chance to deepen. And while this protects harmony, it can also mean swallowing your own feelings time and again. Over time, this can lead to people around you assuming you never mind, that nothing ever bothers you. They stop asking for your opinion or checking in to see how you're really doing because you've become the safe harbor, never the storm. It's a beautiful strength to keep the peace. But when you constantly avoid conflict, you can also lose your own voice. How many times have you nodded along even when you didn't agree, just to keep everyone else happy? How many times have you let something slide, even though it hurt your feelings, just to avoid making waves? Over the years, these small acts of self-sacrifice add up. And if you're not careful, you can end up losing touch with your own needs, your own dreams, even your own sense of self. The world around you may see only calmness, but beneath the surface, you might feel a quiet ache, a longing for someone to truly see you, not just the kindness you give. Let me share a little story. I once knew a woman in her 70s named Grace. She was the glue of her family, the one who remembered every birthday, the one who showed up at every hospital visit, the one who always had an extra seat at her table. But Grace never wanted to trouble anyone with her own worries. When her health started to fail, she kept it to herself for months. She didn't want to be a burden, she said. It wasn't until her neighbor noticed she'd stopped coming outside for her morning walk that anyone realized something was wrong. Her family loved her deeply, but they'd become so used to her strength, her steadiness, that they forgot she needed care too. When Grace finally spoke up, she said, "I'm used to being the helper, not the one who needs help." For so many nice people, that feeling is all too real. Another truth about nice people is that your kindness is not a performance. It's woven into your very being. You don't do it for applause or approval. In fact, if you're like most kind souls, you probably shy away from attention. There's a special kind of courage in living authentically, in showing the world your real self, even when the world is full of masks and noise. Authenticity is a gift, but it can also be lonely. When you're honest and open, some people may mistake your sincerity for naivety, or even weakness. They might think you're easy to push aside, or that your gentleness means you have no boundaries. But the reality is, it takes great strength to keep being kind when others don't reciprocate. To keep giving, even when the world doesn't give back. You have a wisdom that's deeper than most people see. You understand that kindness is not a transaction, but a way of life. And even though that can sometimes mean walking a quieter path, it's a path filled with meaning and quiet courage. Let's take a breath here. If you're listening and nodding along, know that your kindness is seen. Even if it's not always recognized in the moment, even if it sometimes feels invisible, it makes a difference. One quiet act at a time. Now, as we continue this conversation, let's explore more about what it really means to be a nice person in a world that doesn't always notice. There's so much more to uncover, and I promise, we'll find the strength and hope in your gentle nature together. When you give your heart so openly, as nice people often do, you might notice that you're drawn to deeper, more meaningful connections, rather than the endless whirl of small talk or shallow friendships. After a certain age, it becomes even more clear who you can truly count on, and who simply drifts in and out of your life with the seasons. You value quality over quantity? You'd rather have one genuine friend than a room full of acquaintances who only remember you when they need something. This selectivity is not about being picky or standoffish. It's about knowing the value of your own time and energy. After a lifetime of tending to others, of putting out fires and soothing hurt feelings, you understand just how precious emotional energy is. So, you find yourself choosing relationships that feel nurturing, real, and reciprocal. But here's the catch. These relationships are rare. Not everyone is comfortable with the depth you crave. Many people prefer to skim the surface, to keep things light and untroubled, and when they sense someone wanting more, real connection, true conversation, they may step back or even disappear. It's a lonely truth, but it's also a strength. You're not alone because you can't make friends. You're alone because you refuse to settle for relationships that don't honor your heart. This kind of discernment is a gift that comes with age, but it can sometimes make the world feel smaller. You might attend a family gathering or a community event and find yourself surrounded by people, yet quietly yearning for just one conversation that goes beneath the surface. It can feel as if you're on a different frequency, a little out of sync with a world obsessed with noise and busyness. And yet you keep showing up with kindness. You keep opening your home, your ears, your heart. Why? Because to do otherwise would be to deny who you are at your core. Still, this openness can also leave you vulnerable. It's one of life's paradoxes. The more open your heart, the more it can be hurt. Maybe you've trusted someone only to be let down. Maybe you've forgiven only to be hurt again. Nice people are often the first to give second chances, to overlook flaws, to believe in the best of others. Sometimes this means you're taken advantage of. Other times it just means you carry the pain of disappointment a bit more deeply. You may notice how a harsh word, a forgotten call, or a small betrayal lingers in your memory. It's not that you want to hold on to it, but because you feel things deeply, small hurts can echo in your heart. You might replay conversations in your mind, wondering if you could have done something differently. Maybe you question your own worth, not because you don't believe in yourself, but because you measure your value by the happiness you bring to others. That's the shadow side of a giving heart. You can sometimes forget that you deserve happiness too. Let's talk about boundaries for a moment, because this is something so many kind-hearted people struggle with, especially as we get older. We're taught to be selfless, to always think of others first, but no one teaches us how to say no without feeling guilty. Maybe you found yourself agreeing to favors, projects, or visits, even when you felt tired or needed time for yourself. You do it out of love, of course, but each yes chips away at your own reserves. If you're not careful, you can reach a point where you feel exhausted and a little resentful. Two feelings nice people almost never talk about. But boundaries aren't walls. They're not about shutting people out. They're about making sure that the kindness you give doesn't leave you empty. It's healthy to say, "I need some rest," or "I'm not able to help this time." It doesn't make you less nice. In fact, it makes your kindness more sustainable. People who love you will understand. And if someone doesn't respect your boundaries, it says more about them than it does about you. Another challenge for nice people is how easily your empathy can be mistaken for weakness. You're the one who listens, who sees the other side, who forgives. Some people, especially those who haven't learned the same lessons about compassion, may misread this. They might think you're naive or that you can be pushed around, but you know better. You know that kindness takes more strength than cynicism ever could. You know it's far easier to be bitter than to be gentle, especially when life has given you your share of hard days. You also know that choosing not to engage in conflict isn't about running away. It's about preserving peace. After so many years, you understand how arguments can leave scars that never quite heal. You don't avoid conflict because you're afraid. You avoid it because you know just how precious harmony can be. Sometimes, you'd rather swallow your pride than risk hurting someone you love. That's not weakness. That's wisdom. It's a delicate balance, though. There may be times when your avoidance of conflict means your own needs go unspoken. Maybe you keep quiet when you want to speak up, or you let someone else's opinion overshadow your own. Over time, this can lead to a kind of invisibility, not just to others, but to yourself. It's so important, especially as we get older, to remember that your thoughts and feelings matter too. You have a lifetime of experience, insight, and wisdom to share. Don't let your voice be lost in your kindness. One of the most beautiful qualities nice people have is their ability to live with their hearts wide open. You feel things deeply, the joy of a grandchild's laughter, the ache of a friend's absence, the bittersweet memories of days gone by. You're not afraid of your emotions, and that makes you profoundly human. But this openness can sometimes lead to feelings of isolation. because not everyone is willing or able to meet you at that level of honesty and vulnerability. Some people are uncomfortable with raw, real emotion. They keep their guard up, preferring safe, simple conversations. And when you show up with your whole heart, it can make them uneasy. You might find that people drift away, not because of anything you've done, but because your authenticity reminds them of the masks they wear. Don't let this change you. The world needs your gentleness. Even if it sometimes feels like you're standing alone, you are planting seeds of kindness that may bloom in ways you'll never see. As we grow older, the world can start to shrink. Families move, friends pass on, communities change. Sometimes that quiet can feel heavy, even frightening. But solitude is not the same as loneliness. In your quiet moments, you have a chance to reconnect with yourself, to nurture your own spirit. It's in these moments that you rediscover your own strength, your own dreams, your own worth, not defined by what you do for others, but by who you are inside. You've earned the right to cherish your own company, to seek out beauty and joy for yourself, not just for others. This is the gift of age, the freedom to define your own happiness, to set your own pace, to honor the wisdom you've gathered over the years. Your kindness is a legacy, one that lives on in every life you've touched. Even if the world doesn't always say thank you, even if you sometimes feel alone, you are never truly unseen. Let your kindness be your compass, and let your solitude be your sanctuary, a place to rest, to dream, and to remember all that you have given and all that you are. As we continue our conversation, I want you to know that your presence, your gentleness, and your wisdom are a gift, not just to those around you, but to yourself. In the quiet spaces of your day, when you finally sit down and the house is still, you might find yourself reflecting on how life has unfolded. Maybe you're holding a cup of tea by the window, watching the world go by, and a thought drifts in. After all the years of caring and giving, why does it so often feel like it's just you and your memories? You're not alone in this feeling, even if it sometimes seems that way. What you carry, your kindness, your empathy, your willingness to stand by others, is something the world needs, whether it always recognizes it or not. If you've spent most of your life putting others first, it can be easy to lose sight of your own needs. You might have been the reliable one in your family, the person everyone turns to when they need advice, comfort, or simply someone to listen. There's a deep satisfaction in being that person, but it can also be draining, especially if your own heart is running on empty. You may have noticed over the years how little gestures, a thank you card, a spontaneous phone call, or a warm hug, can fill your spirit in ways nothing else can. When those small signs of appreciation become scarce, it's natural to feel the ache of loneliness even in a full room. But there is a powerful truth here, and it's one that grows clearer as we age. Solitude does not mean something is wrong with you. In fact, for nice people, those who have spent a lifetime pouring into others, solitude can be the very place you rediscover yourself. It is in these moments, these pockets of quiet, that you get to know the person behind all the giving. Who are you when there are no expectations? What brings you peace, joy, or curiosity when you're not busy making sure everyone else is taken care of? Sometimes, finding this answer means returning to hobbies or interests you set aside years ago. Maybe it's tending a garden, picking up a paintbrush, reading that stack of books you never had time for, or simply going for a gentle walk and letting your mind wander. These are not luxuries. They're necessities for your spirit. Nurturing your own happiness doesn't make you any less caring. It gives you the strength to keep giving, to stay kind, and to find meaning in every season of life. As you learn to embrace your own company, you may also find that your standards for relationships naturally rise. You become more comfortable with the idea that it's okay to wait for people who value you as deeply as you value them. True connection, at any age, is built on mutual respect and care. If you've ever felt that your circle of friends has grown smaller, remember, it's not about the number of people around you, but the quality of those who stay. Of course, there may still be days when the weight of being nice feels heavier than usual. You might ask, should I have been less generous? Did I make a mistake by always saying yes? These are natural questions, but remember, your kindness is not a flaw. It is a testament to your resilience, your hope, and your belief in goodness. If some people have failed to appreciate your heart, that is a reflection of where they are on their own journey, not a judgment on yours. It's also worth remembering that sometimes being the nice person means making hard choices, like letting go of relationships that drain you or situations that leave you feeling empty. This isn't selfish. It's self-respect. You deserve relationships where you can be yourself, where your kindness is met with gratitude, and where your needs are also considered. Setting boundaries, even late in life, is an act of love for yourself and for those who truly care about you. There is another gift that often comes with age and solitude: wisdom. You have lived through joys and heartbreaks, victories and setbacks. You know how quickly life can change and how the smallest moments, a laugh, a shared memory, a kind word, can linger for years. Use this wisdom to encourage others, to share your stories, and to guide those who are just beginning to understand the value of kindness. Your perspective is invaluable, and sharing it can be both healing and empowering, not just for you, but for those around you. If you ever find yourself wishing for more appreciation or understanding, try reaching out to others who may feel the same. There are many people, neighbors, acquaintances, even strangers, who long for connection but don't know how to start. A simple gesture, like a smile, a kind word, or an invitation to share a cup of tea, can open a new chapter of companionship. Sometimes, by taking the first step, you not only ease your own loneliness, but also touch someone else who needs it just as much. Don't be afraid to express your own needs either. It's never too late to say, "I could use a little help," or "I'd love to have someone to talk to." You might be surprised by how willing people are to return the kindness you've given so freely over the years. Vulnerability isn't a weakness. It's a doorway to deeper, more meaningful relationships. Above all, hold on to your pride in being a kind person. The world can sometimes feel harsh and hurried, but your gentleness is like a light in the darkness. Every act of care, every moment of patience, every gentle word leaves a mark that often goes farther than you will ever know. If you look back and see a path filled with kindness, even if that path was sometimes lonely, you can be sure you've made the world better just by being yourself. As we reach this moment together, I hope you feel a sense of comfort and pride in all that you've given. The journey of kindness may not always be easy, but it is always meaningful. Even in solitude, your spirit remains strong, your heart full, and your story important. Take a moment to appreciate your own company, to reach out when you need to, and to trust that your kindness is a gift not just to others but to yourself as well. If this conversation resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever felt alone because of your kindness? How have you learned to take care of your heart, even while caring for others? Please share your stories. Your wisdom can inspire someone else today. And if you found this video helpful, remember to give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more thoughtful conversations on living fully, kindly, and joyfully at any age. Here's to honoring your journey, celebrating your kindness, and finding peace in every chapter of your life. You are never truly alone, and your light matters. Thank you for letting it shine.